Good evening, it's Mazzy, and this is an episode number 67 of It's the Music Stupid. Now, I don't always explain to you what the concept of this series is, but I think I need to because I had a couple people recently said that they were moving away, unsubscribing to the channel because I was calling them stupid. You're missing the point. You don't understand the concept. And so let me just quickly summarize. Back in the 1992 Bill Clinton election, in the war room, basically the war room, not for war, but for the campaign, there was a mantra. It's the economy, stupid. Whatever you talk about, whether it's immigration, whether it's anything else, whether it's human rights, whatever you're going to talk about in an election, we're way beyond that these days. Boy, who knows what they're talking about. They make shit up left and right and people believe it. But back then, there was a situation with the economy after one of several recessions and inflation periods that happens every decade or 15 years or whatever. And that's what we've come out of. But we're in a different time now. I don't want to get into politics. I know some people don't want that, and that's not what this is about. But it's the music stupid. It's the economy stupid. As you're campaigning, come back and remember, mantra to yourself, not to you, the audience, that it's the economy. Don't forget, stupid. Like I'm Mazzy. Okay, someone's going to say they agree with me. Talk about the music. It doesn't matter about the pressing or the who mastered it or where it was cut. It's about the music, the songs, the musicianship, and that should be primary. And so that's what this series is. I showcase 5 records. Most of the records are probably known to a segment of you. Some may be new to you, and some people out there may be reminded of records they haven't heard in 10, 20, 50 years. So I'm going to start out with a record from 1973. It had a massive hit around the world. One hit, a blue-eyed soul artist that crossed over from a retro style to art, a pretty boy, an actor who only really had one massive hit in the States, but he was huge later in the UK and in Europe, the rest of Europe, and in the theater world and in acting, and that is Rock On by David Essex, 1973. Of course, the song Rock On, I played it again. Actually, I played that song 3 times because it's so good. It ends side 1 on this record. And it's produced by Jeff Wayne, an American, I don't know if he's an expat or something, but he did a lot of stuff in the UK. Not to be confused with Carl Wayne from The Move, but Jeff Wayne is the one who did that album, that really kind of silly, over-the-top War of the Worlds record. And I think David Essex played a character on that, but Jeff Wayne was the narrator in that and really put that together. He's an arranger, composer, I guess, and co-produced this album with David Essex. Now, this came out almost exactly the same time as I recall of an acting role that he was in a film in 1973 called That'll Be the Day with Ringo Starr. I think Dave Edmunds might have been in that movie as well, it was in the band. The band was called the Stray Cats. That is a fabulous film, and it really kind of emulates the early days of the Beatles, like Rory Storm, the Hurricane, when they went up to these summer camps and played. And Ringo, it's one of the best things he's ever done as an actor, and it's really great. There was a sequel a year or two later called, I'll think of it before this segment ends, I think, and which has been really hard to get in the U.S. on video. And he's this massive rock star, and it's kind of a tragic ending. But anyway, let's go to this record. Rock On has this incredible bass. This whole album is really well recorded, has incredible bass. And that song, Rock On, with the background singers, the soul singers, the orchestration, is really a pretty magnificent, unusual song. And it's a radio-friendly song, and it's one of those, ear candy tracks that you can't stay away from. You want to hear it over and over and over again. That's why it was so big here. He did a song, I think, on a subsequent album after this, So You Think You're a Star, that was poppy. It wasn't really big here, but he was more popular in in Britain. He was in the theater district early on Godspell. I think he created the character, was it Shay, in Evita in the UK, the Andrew Lloyd Webber Broadway play, Evita. But I listened to this, I haven't listened to this in a number of years, but of course that song pops up every once in a while. I've heard that plenty of times, but it still holds its own. It's incredible. It opens up with another song that was, I think, somewhat of a hit in the UK, but not really popular here, called Lamplight. But it's just a really beautiful thing. There's soulful stuff, there's retro rock and roll. There's a great, beautiful cover of For Emily Whenever I May Find Her, the Paul Simon and Garfunkel song. And it ends up with a track called September 15th. That's a beautiful, beautiful ballad. This is a stunning record. I forgot how great the album is because that song is so prominent, even though it's the end of side one, that you kind of forget what this thing's about. Obviously a teen idol, or, you know, all the girls, look at this guy, look at this pretty boy face. Kind of like prettier than Davy Jones of the Monkees, right? And he's still alive. He's still doing things in the theatrical films, you know, West End theater type things, where he has been. I don't know the latest, but I just love this record. And I like this record more than I did at the time. I remember at the time, Rock On was incredible, but the rest of it didn't really connect. And I love it more than ever. Next, I'm going to go with an artist that I have criticized, ridiculed, wanked up on my channel. And I just want to say, I was reminded about him because I was in a store and he put out a new record. And you know, he's an old man now. And you know, I'd say I give him a pass or a break because he's not trying to look young. He's sitting in a cafe with a hat on, like you'd run into some old man in a cafe, and that is Eric Clapton. And I want to talk about his first solo record. Now, as much as I would mock the whole wanker thing with Eric Clapton, and one of the videos that is kind of in private now, you can see, you can't see it, is when did Eric Clapton become such a wanker? And I was talking about a situation where a woman's in Germany sold a bootleg of one of his recordings that her dead husband, had left her 8 years earlier, and she got sued and lost money in the anti-vax thing, and I kind of went all crazy on him. But I love Cream, I love Derek and the Dominoes. I like 461 Ocean Boulevard and a couple of those early albums. Then I really got bored with Eric Clapton. You know, when he started like pulling back from that guitar god and became the singer, but I kind of lost interest. Although there's a couple things that I got back into. We did a collaboration with B.B. King and another one with J.J. Cale, finally. But this is an amazing album. Remember, he split up Cream because he heard music from Big Pink. And he said, that's the stuff I want to do, really, kind of that rootsy Americana. We didn't call it that American music, even though that most of the band are Canadians, but he got the essence of the songwriting of Robertson. And Eric Clapton latched onto that album. Then he hooks up with Delaney and Bonnie. There's a tour later with Eric Clapton, and George Harrison shows up, a few gigs. But this album was originally produced by Tom Dowd with Eric Clapton, and Delaney was a big part of this record. Delaney Bramlett, and it is a wonderful record. All these great artists on here. I mean, you have, God, who do you have on here? You have Eric Clapton, Rita Coolidge, Jim Price, Bobby Keys, Bobby Whitlock, Leon Russell, Sonny Curtis, Jim Gordon, that amazing drummer, a tragic end, Bonnie Bramlett, of course, Carl Rattle, J.J. Allison, and Bill Halverson, and that's an engineer. But this is such a good album. It came out of the gate. Now, the original version was mixed by Tom Dowd. It's that really kind of, is it Muscle Shoals? Oh, no, recorded at Village Recorder in Los Angeles. And, you know, Tom Dowd, great producer. I want to show this. This is one of those expanded editions. It has the original released Tom Dowd mix, and it has an unreleased original mix mixed by Delaney Bramlett, and it's great. The different horn arrangement, they're very different. So if you're a CD person and you like this album, this is the version to get because you get both versions. Plus you get some additional outtakes and alternate versions, unreleased versions. But on here, song-wise, you have this kind of instrumental slunky that is a jam by Bramlett and Clapton. You have another Bad Boy, but you have After Midnight here. And this is where it really gelled and started, of Eric Clapton presenting the great music of J.J. Cale. I'm a huge J.J. Cale fan. I remember right when it came out, I think the local station, KSAN, would play After Midnight and Crazy Mama from that debut album, Naturally, by J.J. Cale. I think I've showed that here several times over the years. Fantastic album. Eric Clapton's the guy that made those songs by J.J. Cale famous. He does After Midnight here. He would do the song Cocaine several years later, also written by J.J. Cale. Over the years, he would do a handful of J.J. Cale songs, as would other bands like Leonard Skinner. Call Me the Breeze is another J.J. Cale song, and eventually Eric Clapton and J.J. later in life would do a collaboration entire album. We lost J.J. about, 6-7 years ago, and I just love his records. You got Blues Power, which was kind of a semi-hit, an FM radio hit, written by Eric Clapton and Leon Russell. This is a great, great collaboration. One of the great hook songs that almost seems like it could be from Cream, the later Cream, is the final song here called Let It Rain. It's a great song. It's got great hooks. It's got great kind of jangly guitar. But whatever I've said about Eric Clapton in the past, I still love some of his music and his catalog. I'm really curious to hear the new album. If anyone's heard it, let me know what you think. And try to be objective. There's a lot of Clapton albums I don't like, I get bored with. But obviously he's made some amazing albums. So the debut album. Next, I'm going to go a little pop psychedelia from 1989. I am all in on the band XTC, and this is their 1989 album, Oranges and Lemon. Now, they kind of started out in the late 70s. What is it, 77, 78? Almost like punk, but pop punk. Then they get in more of the new wave thing, and they really merged over the years. And I think this entire band, Colin Moulding, there he goes, Colin. There is Dave Gregory, and the brooding Andy Partridge. There's the three, the core, and they've, tempestuous relationships over the years. I have every XTC album, and I adore them. And Andy Partridge especially wears his influences on his sleeve. Very Beatlesque, great production, very driven, and I admire an artist who is driven like that. Sometimes it gets in the way of, the commercialism. I was fortunate enough to see XTC once, a club called The Stone in North Beach in San Francisco. But he wouldn't tour. He was afraid of flying, afraid of that on-stage thing. And so he retreated to the studio, which was a disservice to the promotion side of XTC. And that was in the early 80s, I believe. I can't remember what year that was. This record sounds pretty much like this cover looks. Very pop. And you think about it, and I think they're one of the great bands of the 80s. Even though they came out in the 70s, they crossed over and made some great stuff in the 90s. They were a great band in the 80s. They weren't a famous band in the 80s. They were like a cult status. People knew them. People loved them. People loved music, loved them. People like me enjoyed them during the new wave, post-punk thing. But a lot of the stuff they were doing was almost out of step with what was happening in terms of sales-wise, especially when they get into the 90s, when the grunge thing was happening. They were doing kind of slick, beautiful thing, but not polished slick. This record, there's a lot going on here. There's pop like 1966 Beatles, Rain, that recording with the drums and the arrangements there. It opens up with a beautiful kind of psych pop thing, The Garden of Earthly Delights, and goes right into The Mayor of Simpleton, which was MTV, but it really didn't turn into major sales for them, unfortunately. I'm not sure why, because it's a great hook, great sound. I mean, This band is great for hooks and great for pulling it together. This album was produced by Paul Fox. Also, King for a Day, Here Comes President Kill Again. You know, they talk about, you know, the U.S. president and 10 Downing Street on that track. But everything on this album is a stunner. There's a lot of variety on here. Maybe it's, some would say it's less focused, but I think it's a variety like the Beatles had variety, like especially in Revolver, the White Album, that period, or, you know, Sgt. Pepper, I guess, to some extent. But what a wonderful record. Great sounding record, great hooks, and very, very energetic and beautiful too. Oranges and Lemons, 1989 XTC. And this is the debut of the Smiths. I think is this Joe DeLisandro, the actor, if you want to call him that, from the Andy Warhol films, I think, right? And that's him in, I think that's his bulge in Sticky Fingers, a Rolling Stones photograph that Andy Warhol, Andy Warhol designed and created, the zipper. Remember that one? But I remember getting this record in 1984, and for whatever, I played it at home, and then I kept playing the first track, Reel Around the Fountain. I didn't even go onto the songs that were the kind of, quote, hits. There was something about that first track, and it has this, like, drum thing. It's time the tale were told of how you... It was so monotone, so different. Reel Around the Fountain, Slap Me on the Patio. I thought it was hysterical. Morrissey singing that with that great kind of jingle jangly guitar, which I would learn. It's Johnny Marr on that. And I remember I have a friend, still a friend of mine named Karen, and I said, you got to hear this, because she likes dark stuff. There's a darkness to her taste in art. And I thought this was a dark record, at least that song. And I remember putting on a cassette, picking her up and driving up to Coit Tower and parking. It's not nefarious, nothing, you know, it was totally innocent. But I just wanted to play her in the car, this cassette. And we played that song over and over again. I think she got it. She eventually got it. I'm not quite sure. But have you ever been in a situation where a song or record excites you so much? It doesn't seem like there was anything like it before. Now, everybody knows of the Smiths. They either love the Smiths or they can't stand the Morrissey voice and the whole political thing now, which is unfortunate, but I still love the Smiths. But something about that song hooked me and drew me in, and I played that so much. Now, other songs on here, Pretty Girls Make Graves, This Charming Man, which I would learn later was a single, kind of a hit in the UK, Still Ill, Hand in Glove, What Difference Does It Make? I mean, all the songs on here are such staples. They only had, what, 5 albums? And every song on their album, they've never made a bad song as far as I'm concerned. And I was all in. I did see them, I don't remember what year. They played once early on at this place in Oakland. It wasn't the big place. It was a medium-sized place, and it was terrible. And I attribute a little bit to the sound, or they were off that night, the sound of that place, Oakland Auditorium or something. Again, not the big sports stadium, medium-sized place. And it just didn't grab me, and I was so bummed. But I still love the band. I still love their records. I collected all the 12-inch singles with their, quote, cover stars. Morrissey picks these stock photographs for the most part and turns them into an album cover and does a great job. But this is a fabulous album. You know, they burned brightly for 5 albums in the 80s, and that there was no more. In some ways, that's a great story of a pop band, of a rock band. When they burn bright like this, like the Beatles, like the Smiths, you know, I think the legacy is more secure from my point of view. And this is an incredible album. It's not a stamp promo, but it is an original Sire record promo, the debut of the Smiths. Lastly, I want to talk about a live album, which I just adore, from 1973. This is Santana's Lotus. This originally only came out as a Japan issue. It wouldn't come out until the CD era in America. You'd have to get it as an import. It did come out, I think, the following year in Europe. 3-record set recording at Osaka, Japan. This would be the tour from the Santana album, Caravanserai, which is that kind of first of the real fusionally jazz spiritual albums. On here, there are songs of Alice Coltrane and Cal Tjader and a lot of different jazz artists on here, and they would fuse it here. They do songs obviously from Abraxas. The album they recorded right before this, but hadn't been released, is the album Welcome, and there's a couple of songs from that. And what's amazing about this is just the pure over-the-top design. I can't even show it here. You need to look at this. It's almost like an album designed origami style. Here is the trifold album. It's a very spiritual album in so many ways. It's a beautifully recorded album. There's an amazing live version of Sama Pati that was on it was on Abraxas. But you have this whole series of open fold-out posters that is just a beautiful, stunning record. Just a beautiful fusion of rock, Latin music, and jazz. I just want to show the CD version I have, the Fat Boy, they call these CDs. I love this because my photographer, Michelle Clementna, I guess in the early 90s, did a photo shoot of Carlos Santana, and I brought this and I had him sign it for me. So it's kind of nice having that. But it's a beautiful album. I just saw that Mobile Fidelity just put it out as a 3 LP set. My guess is that sounds wonderful. I don't need to get it. I have this. I'm satisfied. But if you don't have that album, that might be something to check out because it's such a great album. If you like Santana, if you like Abraxas, and you want something a little sort of the ambient feel of a live set, a beautiful recording out of Japan in 1973, even more so. And there's a certain soul to the music there that you don't have on those other records. Again, I love the first Santana. I love the first 3 Santana albums with the proper group, the main group, before they kind of splintered. And Caravanserai, those fusion albums with McLaughlin and Alice Coltrane that Carlos did, they got into a spiritual thing, which I didn't quite get at the time. Now I enjoy those records. Now I love them. But that's it. A nice little variety here, I think. I think it was a nice little variety. Thanks for watching. It's the Music Stupid. Now you know what that means. Until next time, Mazzy loves you. Do I have to say I got this free too? Way back from my Warner guy, Geffen Records, Virgin Records. It's a notch, it's a promo. Some people get upset if I don't tell them I got free records. I got it 36 years ago, but it was a freebie. Thank you.